Amazing. So if you want to read that story for yourself, maybe at home this week, it's from Acts chapter 27. And so we're continuing our Run the Race series, and as I've already mentioned, it's based on that passage from Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 to 3, where it says, "Let us run with perseverance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith." Last week, Ben Brady encouraged us to think about who we are journeying with and who we're inviting on the journey. And this morning, I want to talk about overcoming obstacles through the perseverance of our gaze. So Paul was on a mission from God to tell as many people as possible about the difference an encounter with Jesus had made to his life. If you read the book of Acts, you'll discover he had so many setbacks. He faced loads of different obstacles. And this shipwreck was just one of many on that day. Paul's journey was far from straightforward in a really literal way. When we think about our own journeys with Jesus, it would be nice to think that they were really straightforward. No bumps in the road or obstacles to overcome. I'm sure that you know better than I do that that isn't really how life with Jesus pans out. Some of us may have already gone through big obstacles in our past. But for some of us, maybe this morning you're feeling like Paul from our story. Some of us might be facing one obstacle that makes us really uncertain about the journey ahead. Or maybe some of us are facing 3 or 4 huge obstacles that might feel overwhelming or maybe even isolating. But the reality of running our race with Jesus is that it's not obstacle-free, but Jesus promises to be with us as we face those obstacles, looking to him, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. Our perseverance in overcoming obstacles that we face doesn't come from our own strength or ability, but comes from lifting our gaze from the obstacle and fixing it on Jesus. The perseverance it talks about, I genuinely believe, isn't about the strength that we carry in ourselves, but is about the perseverance of fixing our attention on Jesus. I don't know how many of you were able to watch much of the Olympics, but at the beginning of this summer, there was a cross-country mountain bike race. And we're going to watch the first, a little snippet of the first half of that race now. So GB rider Tom Pidcock suffered a puncture mid-race, which left him in 9th place, 40 seconds behind the leader. Now, interestingly, before the Olympics, he'd actually complained that the course he was running or cycling on was a bit boring. He'd actually complained it was too boring to be an Olympic course. So he suffers a puncture mid-race, but he didn't lose sight of the fact he was in an Olympic race and there was a gold medal up for grabs. His team slightly clumsily helped him change his tire. And as much as the puncture was an obstacle for him to overcome in that race, that puncture never once had his full attention. Getting to the finish line as well as possible had his full attention. He went on to win gold medal in that final minute of the race in really quite a dramatic fashion, overtaking a Frenchman, which the home crowd were a little bit annoyed about. And the race turned out to be really not quite as boring as he thought the course was. Overcoming obstacles is part of running our race with Jesus. Hebrews 12, verses 1 to 3 doesn't say, run carefree through the smooth race set before us. But instead, it reminds us to run with perseverance the race that is set before us. In that cross-country mountain bike race, Tom's attention, despite the puncture, was still primarily on crossing the finish line. The call of followers of Jesus is to run the race with perseverance. There is a call to persevere in maintaining our attention on Jesus, to not lose sight of him, despite the obstacles, no matter how big or small or consuming they might feel. When I first moved away from my family home to go to university, I decided I'd use a bike to get everywhere. My university halls were a long walk from the university, so I didn't want to do that. And a bike pass was a bit expensive. I was a bit of a I want to save all the money I can to pay for other things. So I didn't want a bus pass either. And in my first week of university, I got a puncture on my bike. Now, this is my bike. This isn't the bike I had however many years ago I was at university. That bike is long dead. But in that first week of university, I got a puncture. Now, this was the first time I lived away from home, so it was also the first time I had to work out how to fix a puncture. I had very little idea. And a video call with my dad didn't really help very much in working out how to fix a puncture. It took me an entire evening, probably 3.5 hours, to work out what to do, and quite frankly, I wanted to give up. I thought, you know what, I'm just going to walk to uni, or I might pay for a bus pass if it's raining. In our walks with Jesus, we will face obstacles that make us feel like we want to give up. It's too much effort for today. Maybe we're feeling worn out or tired. Maybe we haven't spent the summer doing what we'd have preferred to do. Maybe things haven't gone according to plan, or you're feeling upset about something. After repairing that puncture, which I think was day 3 of university, the very next day, I got another puncture on the other tire. And that bus pass had never looked more appealing. We'll face obstacles that make us feel like we want to change how we're traveling, make us want to ditch the bike for a newer model, a better, a less broken one. Maybe for some of us, we're facing obstacles of broken relationships. Or maybe we don't like what we do day to day and we really long for change, but we feel stuck. Maybe we got our A-level results this week and they weren't quite what we were expecting and things feel uncertain. Or maybe in September you're starting a new school or a new class and it all feels a little bit overwhelming when you think about it. And sometimes we'll face obstacles that make us want to change course completely. There might be things that really challenge our faith, make us ask really big questions. And sometimes we might think, God, I don't even know where you are. In the passage from Acts 27, Paul was facing obstacle after obstacle. They'd run out of food, they'd been hungry for days, it had been dark for a really long time, and they didn't even know if it was daytime or night. They were in the middle of a hurricane, and the Bible says that Paul was scared. And yet, God met with him in the middle of it. As a result of the encounter, he stands before a ship full of men and says, I have faith in God that it will happen just as he told me. Despite his circumstances, and even though no one around him was holding on to the same hope, he was able to keep his attention fixed on God. He was able to overcome obstacles through the perseverance of his attention being fixed on Jesus. No matter what obstacle, big or small, you're facing, you're in good company. Bible character after Bible character faced obstacles. We have a God who longs to meet with us and reveal his love for us. We have a God who is with us as we face difficult things. And as Romans 5 tells us, we can trust God can use obstacles to mold and shape us, because perseverance will produce character, and character produces hope. I'd love to encourage you. This is actually a punctured tire from another bike in my garage. The reality that I learned in my first week of university is that when you have a puncture, you take the tire off, you work out where it is, and then either, if it's really bad, you have a new inner tube that you inflate, or you use a puncture repair kit, and it has this little like plaster thing that you attach that covers up the hole. You then put the tire back onto your bike and you re-inflate the tire. You don't ditch the bike. You don't upgrade it for a newer model. You allow the puncture to be what it is. In the grand scheme of things, something insignificant in comparison to what the bike can do. And I'd love to encourage us as a church to take our attention from the obstacles that we face. For some of us, they will feel huge. They will feel all-consuming. For some of us, they might feel less so. But when we face those obstacles, I want to encourage you. Don't ditch the mode of transport. Don't change course. Fix your attention on Jesus and persevere with your gaze fixed on him. There's a couple of questions that I'd love to leave us with just to think about for our week, and they're going to appear on the screen now, I think. So in what way could you focus your attention on Jesus rather than the obstacle this week? There might be things that you already do. There's a few ideas of things that you could do if you're not sure. And I'd love to encourage you, if you are in the middle of facing obstacle after obstacle, maybe one big one, maybe lots of little ones, maybe loads of big ones, I'd love to invite you to spend time praying each day and ask God to show you how he is with you as you face the difficult obstacle that you're facing throughout your day.